If you could just give the people, I think, a good intro of yourself. My understanding is you beat breast cancer and have ran multiple marathons. You're an emergency doctor. I think that's all good things. So tell the people about yourself a little bit.
Okay, well, I ran marathons in my 40s when I was raising kids and working in the emergency department. But then when I was 54 years old, I felt a lump in my breast. Went to the doctor, had all the testing. Turns out it was triple negative breast cancer, which is unfortunately the most aggressive and deadly kind of breast cancer. So I had to have, even though we caught it at an early stage, I had to have 6 months of chemotherapy and a lumpectomy and lymph node dissection and radiation therapy and immunotherapy. And the whole thing took about 14 months. Um, and I did the best I could to train, and to keep up my cardiovascular fitness during my treatment. And so right now I'm working on making a big cardio comeback.
That's incredible. That's incredible. So what was first thing is first, what is the reaction to getting a diagnosis like that? Because I can't imagine that's easy.
Well, I can't say that I was the most surprised person because my mother had the same kind of breast cancer. Although it turns out we both got genetic testing and this is supposedly not hereditary. Um, but I knew it could happen to me. I know that breast cancer happens to 1 in 8 women in their lifetime. So it's not like I thought it was something that could never happen to me. But I lived my whole life trying to be healthy and trying to apply everything I learned in medical school. Running and eating salads, and so I was pretty disappointed that I could do all those healthy things all my life and still get breast cancer when I was still relatively young. So I was a little bit bitter and angry, after I got diagnosed.
So like where how long was the transition between being angry to taking action? Like where did that shift happen?
Well, from my medical education, I knew that looking at an aggressive cancer, I needed to start chemotherapy as soon as I could. So, regardless of how I was feeling, I was on the phone, getting appointments. I had to get an MRI. I had to get, appointments with doctors, and I had to have a port placed because the chemotherapy is so toxic to your veins. You can't have it in a regular IV. They had to put a big port in my chest. I had to have all these things done before I could start chemo. So I was, running around like my hair was on fire trying to get all this done and get my first chemotherapy as soon as possible. Um, so I was kind of experiencing, the anger at the same time I was, trying to move forward with acceptance and starting treatment.
Hmm.
Have you ever heard of any because you have a medical background, but have you looked into any? I feel like everyone now, you see it on social media, but there's always a holistic or some sort of, I don't know, something they come up with to avoid doing the chemotherapy. Like, have you researched into any of that stuff? Obviously, the way you went worked out well for you, but I'm curious if you have researched into any of the alternative methods.
I've heard of a lot of alternative methods, but I also see what happens when people use the alternative treatments and it doesn't work and they come into the ER with, you know, untreatable cancer. Like Steve Jobs had a treatable form of pancreatic cancer and he didn't get conventional therapy and he died. And
Wow.
yeah, I've seen people with horrible outcomes because they didn't get appropriate treatment for their cancer. And facing an aggressive cancer, I didn't hesitate for 1 minute to have, the whole the whole treatment, whatever it took to get rid of the cancer.
Do
And
you
you,
think that working in the field gave you a better idea of where to start and not questioning the science?
Um, yeah, there's some science that I think is questionable, and
Hmm.
there are some science that, you know, there's really nothing that is really like, you know, not really questionable. They just did a big study about breast cancer patients like me who had the triple negative cancer, and they were able to get survival in the 80s to 90% for people who had the 6 months of these particular chemotherapies and the
Wow.
surgery and the radiation, whereas without this treatment the survival is really low for the kind of
what are
cancer.
some of the questionable things that you referred to there?
Oh, there's a lot, like uh, I mean, this is kind of off topic of the cancer, but a lot of back surgery you could argue is unnecessary.
Mm.
let me see. I think pretty much all of chiropractic is questionable. Um, let me see what else. Nutrition, I don't even know what to say about nutrition. When my daughter was in college, she took a class on nutrition, and this was during COVID, so she was at home and she was assigned to watch all these documentaries. And every day she would watch a different documentary. One was about vegan, and one was about like paleo, and one was about keto, and one was about I don't know, like Atkins or Whole Foods or Mediterranean. And after each one, I would be totally convinced that this was correct, that this was the best. They had all kinds of evidence, and I would buy it. And then the next day would be a new video, and I'd believe that. There's just so much contradictory evidence in nutrition. So I think
So,
that's questionable.
what is your approach to nutrition? Because I think everybody has a different approach, and whatever ends up working for them is what is different for everybody, you know?
Yeah, and when I grew up long, long ago, in the 80s, our idea of what was a healthy dinner would be like a big plate of pasta with like just a little bit of butter and Parmesan cheese. Like
Hey,
no protein, no nutrients, because like fat was bad. So yeah, and like Snackwell cookies were a healthy food, right? Because they're low in fat. But now things are so different, and um, I've always believed in like vegetables, lean proteins. I have to eat carbs, in order to be able to exercise. I've tried low carb diets, and it's really hard to, do really intense cardio intervals on no carbohydrates. I believe in balance. Um, Strangely, people asked me, was I on a special diet during chemo? And I was not. It was just whatever I felt like I could eat. I was able to maintain a stable weight during chemo. Um, they have better medicines now. I wasn't throwing up all the time. Um, so it was just like what looked good to me at the time. I had food aversions, like when women are pregnant and they don't want this or that, things they normally like, they didn't like. I didn't want any alcohol or any coffee when I was in chemo. It just didn't
Interesting.
taste good, didn't look good. But things like Wendy's cheeseburgers and animal crackers and dairy milk, those seemed like they would go down okay. So
hey,
I
That's
do that kind of thing.
amazing.
nothing wrong with a McDonald's cheeseburger every now and then, you know?
Yeah.
So one
Wait,
question, what did training look like during treatment?
Yeah, it wasn't pretty. It didn't look anything like what it looked like before. Um, so some days it would be, I get up and walk my dogs.
Okay.
Maybe walk a mile or a mile and a half. Um, some days it was not possible to do anything. I really liked my Peloton, and I liked bike riding when the weather was good. That was something that didn't take too much effort. Or like slow jogs around the neighborhood. That's really what it was, just so I would do something.
That's
And
incredible. That's incredible. I've been reading a lot about achieving goals isn't about doing the big thing, but it's doing a lot of small steps consistently
mhm.
that make the whole. And I feel like that perspective of not needing to get the best workout every single time and just trudging along doing what you could was like very good.
Yeah, I just had to get used to a new mindset. It wasn't about, beating other people in a 5K. It was about, getting out there. And I had a cancer psychologist who helped me a lot. And one of my exercises was, I was supposed to write down what I did every day. If I took a walk with my friend, write it down. If I, you know, had a bike ride, write it down. Because then I can look back later and say, like, even though I'm on chemo and my quality of life is not real good, but look, I did these things. I went out to dinner, and I had some quality of life. It wasn't totally
beautiful,
zero.
beautiful. I wanna circle back a little bit because you said two other things. You said back surgery and chiropractic. We went into the nutrition, but I want to hear your opinions on those because that was very interesting to me. Your
Um,
your chiropractic and back surgery. I guess yeah, where do you stand on those two things? You said they were somewhat questionable.
Yeah, I mean, chiropractic medicine is not based on, research, and, you don't learn it at regular universities like other kinds of medicine. So I think they're kind of fringe. And especially when they start talking about, adjusting the spines of, babies and children.
Mm-mm.
and trying to cure asthma by adjusting the back. I think there's no scientific basis in that.
I could tell you firsthand that is not true.
What cured your what did chiropractic do for you?
I mean, I was never a big believer in it. I did it a few times. Never to truly treat anything. It was mainly to feel a little bit better. But the reason I don't believe in it is because 30 minutes after I would get it, I would be in just as much pain and it would be the same problem again. So I do believe that the body doesn't like quick changes. The
Hmm.
body is very, the body doesn't take well to somebody cracking something, forcing a change.
Hmm. Okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, and especially manipulating the neck. I mean, we see in the emergency department what happens when people have high velocity, movements of the neck, and the two vertebral arteries that go up the back of the neck can dissect, and people can have a stroke, even young, healthy people, from chiropractic neck manipulations. So,
Yeah.
it's not
I,
a
I've
routine.
I've been in the chiropractor a couple times, but I would always say like don't touch my neck. Like
Mhm,
we would do the back, but I wouldn't let him. I would never. I was always scared to let him touch my neck, for
mhm.
sure. Yeah, and we talk a lot about like exercise being like almost your form of chiropractic, like coming into balance and alignment within your own instead of being manipulated into that position.
Yeah, I have a running friend who's a physical therapist, and he says, most Americans, they have back pain because they have a tight, weak back. And the
Mhm.
goal is to have a strong, flexible back. So I believe in
Right.
physical therapy for back problems, but not
Yeah. And then back surgeries, which ones like at what point would you say to avoid it?
well, that's the thing because some people really do need back surgery, depending on what's wrong with them. But I remember learning that after back surgery, one third of the people are better, one third of the people are the same, and one third of the people feel worse.
Oof.
So, and
So is
I
this a
feel like
reason
Andrew, that could be like just straight training and fascial what's the word I'm looking
fascial
for?
connection, fascial release? I mean, I think a big thing too is that if a sedentary person gets the surgery before trying any of the physical, I believe that's where the biggest problem is because you don't give yourself you don't give the body the chance to fix that problem.
mhm. Yeah, and I think luckily most people, when you go to the doctor, the first thing they try is, physical therapy and, anti-inflammatory medicines, and then only if that isn't helping do they, get an MRI and then, maybe based on what the MRI shows, you get sent to a back surgeon.
So
But
even
Your
even at
opinion on
the
anti-inflammatories? Sorry about that, Brett, but what's your opinion on anti-inflammatories? Like, do you think that they're fully necessary, or do you think that somebody can make certain changes within their diet, within their habits to promote that anti-inflammatory response?
I believe that there are foods that are anti-inflammatory, but I think medicines are stronger. So
Okay.
depending on the degree of pain we're talking about, that
Hmm.
some people may need medicine.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I would say that it's a case by case. But I
Mhm.
used to be in the camp of abusing the anti-inflammatories, and
Yeah.
I think that did not help my case at all.
Yeah.
how much even at the level of the ER, right? As an emergency doctor, how much of even those things do you think could be prevented by just diet and exercise, just a healthy lifestyle?
Interesting question. I think, if everybody in America had a perfect diet and exercise program, they'd all still wind up in the ER, but maybe, 20 or 30 years older than they do now.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And what would those instances be? Because there's such a variety that comes into the ER or the doctor for in general.
Yeah. I'm thinking about the like heart attacks and strokes that,
Mm.
Hmm.
the type 2 diabetes, that could be delayed, if people had better diet and exercise.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I'm in the camp of we should try to do everything we can to prevent, but prevention is 100% impossible. Like one thing
Mhm.
Brett and I talked about on an earlier podcast was you're never going to be able to prevent a car hitting you, no matter
Mhm.
how good you train.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and so like truly preventing is impossible, but
Mhm.
like taking the steps to prevent is definitely, I think it's good I think it's good.
Mhm.
Do you have a position on supplements? Any supplements you recommend for in general or even for certain things like I don't know, magnesium, CoQ10, PQQ, DHEA, things like this, omega 3s?
I listen to all the podcasts like Huberman and Peter Attia, and they recommend all these things. And really, I don't do any of them myself. I try to
That's
get my
interesting.
I try to get my nutrition from food.
Okay.
Um, let me see. Um, when I was going through the chemo, I was taking vitamin D and magnesium.
Mm.
Um, but
And
yeah,
then if you were to explain like why would you explain that you took those two supplements at that time?
I was taking magnesium for sleep,
Okay.
and I was taking vitamin D because I felt like I wasn't getting outside. I was
Yeah.
lying
Yeah.
on the couch with my dogs.
Right. Exactly.
Okay, and so let's go into that a little bit then. When it comes to supplements, I'm in the camp that we abuse supplements in order to replace things that we don't do in everyday life. So what why is I mean, why is the vitamin so popular, and what's the problem with replacing the vitamin with the habit?
Yeah, I think, um, yeah, they have done studies that people who get their vitamins from food do better than people who just take multivitamins.
Hmm.
Um, and if you eat the foods, then you also get the fiber and the protein rather than, people who just eat junk and then take a multivitamin and hope it all evens out, I think. And that's how our bodies were designed to function,
Right.
getting your nutrients from foods.
And so that brings me to the next question. When you were going through the chemo, was something that they were doing was testing your blood and then you were deciding on what to take based on blood tests, or was it solely based on like research?
Um, you mean like the magnesium and the vitamin D?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I know I'm always low on vitamin D, like my whole
Okay.
life, and just, you know, um, even though I drink a lot of milk and I feel like I go outside, I wear a lot of sunscreen. So I just tried to clean up and be more faithful about taking the vitamin D that I should probably be on all the time anyway.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, and I had trouble sleeping when I was on chemo, and that I'm sure was just anxiety. But I was still able to eat. So besides for the first couple months after I was diagnosed, when I was so angry, I stopped eating salads. I was like, these salads have never done anything for me. Look, I eat all the salads and now I have cancer. Like what a waste of time that all was. But once I got over that, I started, eating my salads again and trying to just eat my healthy foods and get my nutrients from foods.
Okay.
That could be that could I mean that could really be some good advice right there for people like, who are trying really hard and then something hits like life hits, but
Mhm.
those habits still are good habits, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah. So keep grinding, keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. That's really
And
good.
another thing that I think I would like to mention is what was the difference between being the patient versus treating the patient? Like what was the biggest differences you saw in the two, and how did that help you during the diagnosis and during the process?
Yeah, I mean, I have to admit that it is a huge help, for someone who gets sick to have a medical background because, I understand how the system works. But even then, I had trouble getting the system to work for me. Like,
Hmm.
when I felt the lump, the first thing I do is I uh, call the like appointment line and I make an appointment with the first OBGYN that I can get an appointment with. And she says, go get an MRI. And so I have to wait like 2 weeks for this to get all scheduled and approved by my insurance. And at the time, I'm thinking, like, is this really right? Like, it didn't seem right. And luckily, I'm in a Facebook group of like thousands of other women doctors. So I just like typed in, like, is this right? Am I supposed to get an MRI for this lump I feel? And they came back, unequivocally, no, you need a mammogram and an ultrasound. So I'm like, okay, but I don't have an order for those. And so I had to like cold call a bunch of physicians' offices, like breast surgeons, to try to get somebody to put the order in the computer so I could go get these tests that I knew that I needed.
Mm.
So I was able to get things done faster, and I was able to get better information because I knew people. So that was a big advantage, especially early when I was trying to get everything set up.
So that's actually that's incredible because I don't think most people have the ability to even know these things exist. Do are outside women that aren't doctors allowed to be in these groups?
No.
Okay. Okay. But I imagine there is some Facebook groups, some Reddit groups that women can look at.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm sure
Okay.
there's groups that, they have like either women nurses or women, other women medical professionals who know these things that they can get quality information. But there's a lot of bad information online also.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean it's incredible because I'm just thinking about it like such a blessing that you were able to talk to all these people and get all those resources. And so what at a certain point, where did you do that from the beginning, or were you searching around yourself and then came to the conclusion that you needed outside help?
Um, in order to figure out like what was the next step for treatment.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, some once I got my own, oncologist, my own cancer specialist, then I knew, I could just trust her. And by that time, I had done enough research to know that everybody with my kind of cancer needs this. They call it Keystone 522 protocol, which is the kind of chemo that I got. Um, so it took me a little, maybe a week or a couple weeks to kind of get oriented about, what is my new reality? Who is my treatment team and what's going to happen? And luckily, my hospital has what they call a nurse navigator, because even as a physician, I didn't get treatment at my own hospital because of insurance reasons and because I live kind of far from the hospital where I work. So it was a little bit of a different system. So it was really valuable that they had a nurse that I could call anytime and she could, make appointments for me and, move things around and kind of facilitate everything because she had everybody's back line that she could get people on the phone right away instead of going through some, call, automated call uh, tree. What's
Yeah.
that when you go through all the voice prompts and then it disconnects you at the end? Yeah.
Yeah. That's okay, that's great. And another thing that I wanted to know is how do you going from step to step, what would you say was the biggest challenge in terms of realizing the treatment and like from start to finish, what would you say was the hardest part?
Yeah. So I had immunotherapy all the way through. But the first treatment thing was the chemo. The first 6 months were chemo.
Okay.
And that was definitely the hardest part. Yeah. Because there's 3 months of one kind of chemo, then I got 3 weeks off, and then I had 3 months of another kind of chemo. And each kind of chemo has like different horrible side effects. There's like this one causes nerve damage, and this other one is bad for your heart. And all of them make you lose your hair. So yeah, the chemo was definitely the worst.
And then how did you negate some of those side effects and could you briefly explain the different types of chemo? Because I didn't know there was different types of chemo.
Oh, there are so many millions of kinds, and they're developing new kinds all the time. But unfortunately, none of the new, like safer, easier kinds of chemo works that well against the kind of cancer that I had. So,
Mm.
like, I had to have Taxol as one of my first chemos, and that's the one that causes nerve damage. But you can kind of try not to get the nerve damage if you can cool down your hands and your feet, because if you can cool a part of your body, then the blood vessels get smaller and then less of the chemo goes to those areas. So I was sitting there getting my chemo with like my hands in these icy gloves and my feet in these icy socks, which was really miserable. And I also had a cold cap on my head, which it is hooked up to a machine, and the machine runs ice water through the cap and cools off my scalp, so less chemo goes to my scalp, and then the idea is that you lose less hair.
Wow. Wow. And where'd you find that? Like yeah, where'd you find out about that?
Oh, I don't remember where I first heard about that. I think I read about it like in a magazine like years and years ago before I ever had cancer. Um, And it was kind of experimental, and it doesn't work 100%. You'll notice that my hair is very short.
Hey, but
But
it looks perfect.
thanks.
It looks
Thanks. I was never truly bald. Whereas I would have been really bald if I hadn't tried to cool my scalp and save my hair. But it definitely makes the whole chemo way more miserable if you're shivering because your head is cold and your hands and feet are cold.
So that's not the standard operating procedure there.
No, that's extra. And a lot of that, like I was saying, so there's a Facebook group for women doctors, and then there's a Facebook group for women doctors with cancer, because unfortunately
Mm.
there's a lot of us. So once I was in that group, then I found out all the best ways to cool my hands and feet, and um, they had all kinds of good advice about like taking care of your skin and your hair and your nails when you're on chemo. And
So what did that look like? What type of was there supplements involved, or was it practices like keeping yourself cool?
yeah, it was mostly cooling the hands and feet. That can, a lot of people like lose their nails during chemo, but cooling my hands and feet helped with that also.
Mm.
Um, and there was a lot of emotional support in that group. It really is a great group of women. Um, and it's interesting because everybody makes different choices for themselves. Some people didn't try to cool their hands and feet. I got a little bit of nerve damage in my feet, but I think it would have been way worse if I hadn't been trying to avoid it. And some people have to stop their chemo because they get the nerve damage, and that's a disaster because if you can't get the chemo, then you can't fight the cancer.
I want to ask because we're talking about some interesting techniques here. Have you ever had to like have you ever experienced or diagnosed something different or rare or like people don't see it a lot? You know what I mean?
Oh, like in the ER?
Yeah.
Well, unfortunately, I diagnosed a lot of cancer in the ER. And it hits me just a little bit harder now because I know that, if I diagnose somebody with breast cancer, then I know that, they're going to go through what I went through.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
And
that's an interesting perspective too because you have a kind of a personal relation to that individual at that time.
mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I see people come in with side effects of the same kinds of chemo that I got. And, I think it's just, a lucky chance or the grace of God that, I didn't have those bad side effects. Like I made it through chemo pretty okay, considering. But there'll be some people who have a, anaphylactic allergic reaction to their chemo, or, the chemo wipes out their bone marrow and they get anemic and their immune system is weak, and, they have bleeding problems. So, I really was very lucky.
wow.
What are some very unusual I want to hear an unusual ER story.
Oh yeah. So I tried to think of some emergency medicine stories with a moral, because there
Okay.
are things in this world that are dangerous. Like you were talking about people who come to the ER and how they can avoid coming for
Yeah.
strokes if they have good nutrition, but you can avoid coming in for horrible accidents if you avoid dangerous things, such as, have you ever heard of a potato gun?
Oh yeah, I've
Potato
heard of
gun.
yeah,
A
potato.
potato gun.
It's like a potato launcher. Like you can just shoot potatoes at people.
Yeah, it's a very bad idea. When we were residents, we had a case. These somebody was fooling around with a potato gun and shot their brother in the face with a potato gun,
Oh
Nice.
no,
and he lost his vision.
Oh my God.
that is horrible.
Yeah,
Oh
because when
my
your eye
God.
sockets are full of potatoes, that's not good for your eyes.
That is horrible. I would feel so bad if I was the brother.
So, yeah,
I
so
feel like
no potato guns.
uh,
No BB guns. People are always shooting each other with BB guns that lodge in their brains or eyes. Um, Nail guns. If you're working with a nail gun, that's fine if you're a professional, but if your body starts itching when you're using your nail gun, don't use the nail gun to scratch yourself in the chest or in the eye. Don't do that, because the nail goes through your sternum or the nail goes into your eye, and then you wind up in the ER.
Have you seen this?
Yep.
Oh no.
N-
Oh
Now
no.
are these separate individuals here
Yep.
with
Yep.
yeah.
No.
Mhm.
I think I would be so mad at myself if I was scratching myself with a nail gun and boom. Oh no.
That's like, I mean, true. If you have a big nail, I mean, the
Mhm.
eyeball, that person definitely, their eyeball is not the same, right? Like they probably had to have that, what, removed, or how does that even
No,
work?
it was like a miracle. His for some reason, somehow the nail got lodged, like, in between the bones, like, and did not go in the eye. So even though you could see the nail, I just
This is
looked at
like,
the nail.
have you ever watched the show Untold Stories of the ER?
Yes, yes, I know
That's
some of
like
those
one
people.
of those. What'd you say? You know those people?
Some of those people I've looked and I'm like, "Oh, that's my colleague I used to work with."
Oh
Oh,
my
that's
goodness.
awesome.
Mhm. Yeah.
That's, but that just sounds like one of those type of stories there.
Mhm. Yeah, we see bizarre, bizarre things. Yeah, so people should be very careful with, ATVs and, uh, chainsaws and
Okay.
trampolines.
Okay.
After a certain
Trampoline.
age, you should probably not do flips on a trampoline.
I think we should go through these one by one here. We have chainsaw, chainsaw. I want to hear about the chainsaw.
Now, emergency doctors don't own these things. Like, we don't own a chainsaw at my house because according to people, they just, like, kick back and then they cut you, like, in the leg or the arm or your hand. It's horrible.
Wow.
So, yeah,
I've
I
never
see.
used one, so I did not know about that.
Yeah, yeah.
What do we get? Like a chainsawed leg and coming to
Yeah,
the ER? Yeah.
and those are hard to sew up, because 'cause they're really big and they're really deep and
Oh
yeah.
my God. I don't even want to imagine. Okay, that do you have to use like a special type of stitches if we're like if we're have like an open thigh, you know? Like an
Mhm.
open leg?
Yeah, it's hard because there's, a lot of swelling and tissue damage, and you have to do layers. You have to sew it in layers so it will hold.
Because I've only had stitches like they seem to be very small and it's always been like a small
Mhm.
cut but a deep one. But like if we're talking about like an open gashing wound across the
Mhm.
thigh, how do you sew that up?
Yeah, there's all kinds of stitches like, horizontal mattress sutures and vertical mattress sutures that you can use when it's gonna be a high tension wound, but, it's not pretty when you're done.
Oh my God, I could believe it.
Okay, so I have a question because when I was very young, I cracked my head open and I did not get the glue. I know I got stitches,
Mhm,
but what type of stitches would that been? I fell backwards on a bed and I hit myself on one of those old TVs
mhm.
that were very sharp on the edge and
Oh.
cracked from here to here.
That's
What
why
type
he
of
is the way he
stitches
is
would that
now.
use? What was that?
I said that's why you are the way you are now.
Yeah, yeah. I think part of it is.
Yeah. Yeah, so luckily scalps are really easy to work with because, you know, any
Uh-oh.
scar that there is hidden in the hair, so,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
true.
Yeah,
That's true.
But
But is
scalps
it
bleed a
different
lot.
when it's bone? Like are
my
the stitches different when it's bone than versus when it's skin?
Did you have a skull fracture?
No clue. I was I think 3 or 4 years old, so I have no recollection.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I mean, those are different things. If there's a fracture and if there's a laceration.
Okay.
I had to get stitches in my hand. That was very unfortunate. I had to get
Mhm.
stitches like right from like in between one of my fingers down to like the center of my hand.
No.
That was like the hand like once it starts
Mhm.
moving, it would just like I would feel it all the time with the stitches. That one it's very unfortunate.
Yeah.
But I had stitches in my head. Yeah, on my forehead. We played we decided we wanted to play baseball with a metal bat and a big yoga ball.
Oh.
So the
Big
yoga ball
yoga
comes
ball.
at me and I take a big swing at the yoga ball with the baseball bat and it was like boom boom. And then
Oh.
yeah.
Oh no. That's horrible.
Dude, I swung the bat so hard you wouldn't even believe.
So, switching subjects here. Um, Kate, I want to know, did you keep running during your cancer treatment? And did you get back into racing at all?
Um, you could call it racing. I mean, I was still running in races. I did the Pittsburgh half marathon when I was like after 3 chemos, and
Wow.
I just ran it real slow, like 2.5 hours. And I'd still go out to the 5K on a weekend, and just try to do my best. And you
That's incredible.
mhm,
That's incredible. So how, okay, we were talking a little bit ago about doing what you can do,
mhm.
and then now we're talking about half marathons and 5Ks. Where does, and after 3 chemos, I would assume that it gets harder after each chemo, or is that wrong?
Yeah, it is cumulative. Yeah, it builds up over time. But yeah, so and it was strange because I still had my endurance, during most of it. Like I could still finish 13 miles. I just couldn't run them nearly as fast. Like my top
Wow.
end speed is what took the biggest hit.
So would you say that a big thing that helped you out during the chemo was your previous endurance training? Because I can imagine that having a strong heart couldn't hurt.
Yeah, there's no doubt in my mind. Yeah. Yeah, because I know like I lost a lot of cardio fitness, lost a lot of muscle, but it would definitely have been worse if I had been sedentary going into it.
Mm. So was there ever a part of your life where you found yourself not in the routine of exercising or not in the routine of being healthy?
Like during the chemo, I don't know, like most weeks, I was looking back at my calendar on my Garmin Connect, and a lot of those weeks, like I'd work out like once or twice,
Mm.
maybe a Peloton ride or maybe a slow jog. It wasn't really, I don't know if you could call it training, really. It was just kind of maintenance, you know.
Okay. Well, I mean, you know what that sounds like to me? That sounds like the story you were telling us about Dr. Rock and how the patient thought you were some big strong woman, and that sounds like Dr. Rock right there. Yeah, like to me, like everything you've said so far, it really just like it doesn't sound like the typical response to a life-threatening problem. Like a lot of people, obviously, I don't know, but I've seen some family members who got the cancer diagnosis and they took it very head on, like I'm gonna beat this. And it sounds like you had the same response, like that you really just said, this isn't going to take me. If I've got a say in this, I've got a chance.
Hmm.
Really did
Yeah.
whatever you could.
Yeah. And cancer patients will talk about, I think it's toxic positivity, where they feel a lot of pressure to always, be positive and be hopeful and, not really wallow in pity and be all depressed. And I'll admit I had both, reactions. Like when I would talk to my cancer psychotherapist, I would pretty much just like cry the whole hour on the Zoom call. Um, but then, I have to pick myself up and, try to live my life. And I didn't want cancer to take away all of the things that were important to me in my life, like
Hmm.
spending time with my kids and going to their activities. My daughter was preparing for her wedding during this time. And so, I had to crawl off the couch and go look at her wedding venues with her and go shopping for wedding dresses. And, I still wanted to be part of all that. And so I had to kind of push myself even
Do you
when I
think
felt
that
defeated.
motivated you to keep going?
Yeah, I mean, there was no doubt in my mind. Like I saw my mother. My mother was in her 70s when she had triple negative breast cancer, and she did a really good job for a 70-year-old. Like she got a lot of chemo and she was cured. So I knew if I, and statistically, if I got all the treatment, then I would most likely be cured. So
Hmm.
I was motivated.
If you
That's
were to tell
amazing.
somebody how to get to the point where they could start running like half marathons, marathons, because I feel like for a lot of people it's the first like mile or the first like 2 miles that are really the hardest, and then once you start
Mhm.
breaking after that point, then you can just kind of flow. Like, what's your advice on training and how to prepare for something like that?
Yeah, you are absolutely right. All the runners say the first mile is the worst mile.
Yeah.
And so for somebody who's looking into just getting into running for the first time, there are all these apps called Couch to 5K, that I recommend. I've even done this with like my friend Amy. I did this with my husband. And you just like walk for 5 minutes, and then you do intervals where you just like jog for 30 seconds, and then you walk for a minute, and then you just jog for another 30 seconds, just real easy. A lot of people feel like running, you have to run as fast as you can, like in gym class when the coach was yelling at you or the gym teacher was yelling at you. But really, running real slow has still amazing cardiovascular benefits. So, I don't think anybody should worry about how fast they're running. Um, but if they just do a little program like Couch to 5K, it's a 12-week program, and at the end you can run a 5K. And each week the running intervals get a little longer and the walking intervals get a little shorter. And by the time you're done, you run 3 miles. So that's something that everybody can do at their own pace. And it's just an easy way to kind of, start running. And then once you
And
can do a
then
5K, you can train for a 10K.
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. At what point are you equipped to just go out there and do a full marathon?
That takes a lot of training.
Maybe half marathon.
Yeah.
How like what is there a time frame or is there you have to do it, like an unsanctioned event, you know what I mean? Or like you have to just do it by yourself, go run 13, be like, all right, well I can run 13. Or is there a certain pace at, 9 miles or a certain pace at 8 miles where we're like, all right, I can probably go ahead and do the 13.
Well, I would say everybody is different. Young people can get away with a lot less training. They can just kind of pull it off. I was in my 40s. I had just turned 40 when I did my first 5K, and my friend was training for a half marathon. I think, yeah. And then, so, I did a 5K, and then I was running 5 miles with her. We have a 5 mile loop near our house in a park. And then one day, the 5 miles was going okay. And she's like, we could just do another lap. And so that's the first time I ever did 10 miles. And then I realized if I could do 10 miles, I could do a half marathon. So we went to Philadelphia, and she ran the Philadelphia full marathon and I ran the half.
And
Um,
then, oh no, sorry, go ahead.
so that was really a relatively short time. I don't recommend this for everyone, but I think my first 5K was in September. And then I ran the Philly half marathon at the end of November. Um,
Wow.
but yeah, people shouldn't really try to do that or expect to do that. I did have a running background from high school, and like I had always been into cardio like my whole life, like elliptical and step aerobics and all the trends and all the fun things.
So
But
this is a little bit off topic, but have you ever tried working on your feet?
working on my feet.
Yeah, like working on the muscles in the feet and working on the control of the toes.
I've heard you guys talk about this on your podcast before. And it's
Yeah.
interesting because there's a runner, an Olympian named Jeff Galloway, and he's more famous for the run walk method, but he talks about one of his big running secrets was pushing off with his feet.
Hmm.
But
Yeah,
I
so
myself have not done that.
well, I mean that's a big thing too. It's something that I learned after tearing my ACL was the feet having flexibility within the feet and the actual plantar fascia, like the
Mhm.
what's it called? The uh
Arch of the foot.
the arch, yes. The arch, if you don't have control over it, it leads to, and for me at least, it led to a lot of knee pain and back pain. And I anybody who runs, I always ask if they've ever worked on the feet.
Hmm. Yeah, I've had plenty of foot and ankle problems.
Okay.
Wow.
But
All right, so back to it. You hit the 13. At what point are we ready for the 26? What for you? Like where did the time frames and then what were you doing in training to where you're like, all right, we're going for 26.
okay, yeah, I think it took me another like 18 months after that to actually attempt a full marathon.
Oh,
Or
okay.
actually, it was the Philadelphia Marathon again. So I think maybe it was the next year because my training partner decided that we should run Boston.
Mm.
So so then I ran my first marathon in Philadelphia, and it was like 4 hours, 4.5 hours. It was not fast. It was just kind of getting through it, just getting like just to meet the beast. And
Yeah.
then the next marathon I ran in Pittsburgh, I ran like 4:08. And then
Wow.
after that, we were in serious training for Boston, and I had to run 3:45 to qualify for Boston. And the next year at Pittsburgh, I ran 3:42. So that was the first
Wow.
time we went to Boston.
Wow,
Nice.
that's incredible.
Mhm.
I think I would go above 4 hours, honestly. I'm last time I ran, I used to have to run all the time, but I would run 5Ks, and
Mhm.
I was not the biggest fan of running. Not the biggest fan, but
No.
a marathon sounds, maybe one day I'd do it, but it sounds like
So
not something I'd do.
so you've done three
Probably a total of 8, 7 or 8 marathons, full
full
marathon.
marathons.
Mhm.
What's your best time?
I think it's 3:42, 3:41, 3:42, something like that.
That's a lot of marathons.
It's a lot of marathons. You
How
ever thought
many in the
about an
same?
Ironman?
Oh, sorry.
You ever thought about an Ironman?
Briefly. I did one triathlon, but I'm not a good swimmer and I'm a fearful cyclist. So
Mm.
like, I'll never be a great triathlete.
It sounds the Ironman sounds insane.
Mhm.
I recently found out what it was because I'd always hear about it, but I never actually knew what it entailed.
Mhm.
But that is grueling for sure.
I
Yeah.
used to train a lady who did Ironmans.
Yeah. And the training for it is you have to do these bricks of like multiple, like swim and bike and run. It just takes up your whole life. I mean, marathon training takes up your whole life. And I can't imagine how long to train for a Ironman, how many hours a day.
Yeah, I mean, you got to have a lot of hours to go just
Mhm.
practice running marathons.
Mhm.
That's a lot of time. So do you split that? You split like or because it has to be one one long go, you know?
For the
So
marathon?
yeah, because yeah, exactly. Like when you do the actual marathon, it's a 4 hour operation for a
Mhm.
untrained person or a somewhat trained person, right?
Mhm.
So like when you're practicing for it, do you split them up into two 2 hour sessions, or are you practicing for, you know, staying on the road for 3, 4 hours?
Um,
That's a lot
most
of that's a lot of time to a single training session, you know?
most marathon training plans, the longest run you do before the marathon is like 20 miles.
20 miles,
Yeah.
6 more to go. That's a lot of time.
And you might only
20
do,
miles is a what? 3 hour, 2.5 hour
yeah,
training session.
yeah, but you might only do that 2 times before the marathon.
Yeah.
And you kind of build your way up to it. Like, a lot of them are like 16-week or 18-week training plans. And your long run, will be on a Sunday. And, it might start at, 8 miles. And then gradually over time, it's, 10 and then it's 12. And then you have an off week where you can go back to 10. And then you just kind of increase slowly.
That's
So
insane. I've never
which
never
days were
looked
your
into that.
favorite days? Like what days would you look forward to the distance in terms
I
of
like intervals. I like speed. I was a sprinter when I was in high school. So,
Okay.
okay.
yeah, like a long run, I think is boring. But
And would you say, and I feel like, yeah, would you say how much would you say that the speed quality helps with the distance? If you have a higher max velocity, let's say, how much does that help with the
it
distance
helps
running?
a little, but not that much because, like a 5K is all out, like you're running pretty fast. But a
Right.
marathon, you run kind of slow. And, it doesn't hurt until the end.
Hmm. Okay. So I think what Brett was trying to get at there was the like having the higher velocity like leading to less output on the slow end. But I mean I definitely see what you're saying. Like you're going slow, so it doesn't matter how fast you can go.
Well, I would say it helps you a little bit. I mean, interval training and tempo runs are a part of the marathon training plans. But yeah, a lot of it's just really like the long endurance and just pacing. You have to be able to pace yourself. You can't go out too fast.
Are you ever like trying to push any certain segments or are you trying to keep the same pace the whole time?
I keep the same pace the whole time. In fact, uh, when I look back on my runs, like I am very steady mile to mile, um, to the point where I actually volunteer to work as a pacer and pace other people in half marathons,
That's
because it
awesome.
just comes naturally to me. Like I just naturally run the same pace. But I have a friend. I ran Pittsburgh half marathon one time with my friend who has this system of like some are surge miles and some are rest miles and some are regular miles, and so the whole time she's like speeding up and slowing down, and it was making me crazy. It was the most exhausting half marathon I ever did.
Let's I want to speak on that a little bit because some people they do that speeding up to keep themselves entertained, but it sounds like you do better with the consistency.
That's what comes naturally to me. Yeah.
Yeah. And would you say I think it's harder to stay disciplined like that? Like, 'cause that's really keeping yourself disciplined, like staying with the same thing on each time and really like keeping the same pace, not pushing and not letting the ego take over.
I feel like I can get into like a rhythm or a homeostasis, and I'm usually listening to music, and my music kind of has the same beat, so it's easy for me to just stay.
Have you ever looked into a man by the name of David Goggins?
I don't. I don't know. I don't.
No.
Know.
You would know if you came across Mr. Goggins.
What
This
does he?
guy, this guy is incredible. Incredible and also very, I don't know if most of his message is very safe. He he just talks about pushing past the mental barrier and going to the extremes. So like the guy will run 20 miles and have his feet bleeding, and then the next day wake up
Well, it'd
and
be
do
like
it again.
200. He does like 200 miles.
Oh, ultra. Yeah.
Yeah, he's an ultra runner, yeah.
I don't do ultras. I hang with those people though.
Hey, that's what I'm talking about.
I'm in a trail running group, and these people, yeah, they are trail runners, and they can run. I think 100 miles is the most any of them run. Um,
So what's the difference between a marathon runner and an ultra marathon runner, like in terms of mentality?
oh, yeah, it is really different because like a marathon is still a race. Like really,
Mhm.
the goal is to get there as fast as you can, and you might like eat some gels or some gummy bears or something for calories, but you can do most of it on the storage glycogen in your muscles and your liver. But ultras are all about fueling, like how many calories can you ingest, without making yourself sick. So there's a lot of like eating and walking in these races.
Wow. Wow. I have tremendous respect for marathon runners and ultra marathon runners. To me, it doesn't click. It does not click in my mind.
I don't do it. I don't think it's good for you. And in fact, I think I've read that running a marathon is not really good for your body. And from what I've experienced, running the marathon is not good for my body. Like I wrecked my IT band one time and I get blood blisters on my feet, and I'm just like wrecked afterward.
Talk
But
about the IT ban.
oh yeah, because I was getting a giant blood blister on the inside of my right foot. So I start running like for the last 6 miles, kind of running on the outside of my foot because it hurt to run normally. And then
Mhm.
that just strained my IT band so much. It took me like a long time to fix that.
That's interesting. That's something that one of our friends, David Weck, talks about is that the go zone is hitting the outside of the foot, and then when you push off, you want to go into the go to, which is the inside of the foot. And
Mhm,
it's like the natural rotation of the femur along with the tibia is
mhm.
making the foot hit and then get coming out in from the outside and then pushing off from the inside, outside
Yeah,
into inside.
I've heard that you kind of like roll forward onto your outer foot and then off on your toes.
Yeah. And so it's interesting that staying on the outside of your foot gave you that IT band pain.
Hmm. Yeah, so running a marathon is bad for you, but training for a marathon is good for you.
Hmm. That
Yeah,
makes sense.
I read that running more than 3 hours is not really good for you.
Have you
Yeah.
ever read Born to Run?
I haven't read it. All my ultra running friends read it though.
Okay. Have you read that one yet, Andrew?
I have not. I have
I have
not.
not read that one yet either.
I've I hear recommendations for it all the time, but
You know what's crazy? It was in my hands, and I was gonna buy it just because it's been on my list, but I just had so many other books I just wanted to read first, and it didn't. I don't know. I've heard good reviews, but it didn't
so
hit me.
let's go into a little bit about books. What's your favorite book that you've read in the past 2 years?
Oh, like a running book or fitness book?
Anything, any book, one that
Oh,
really caught your attention that you would want to read again soon.
wow, that's like asking you like, what's your favorite child? So many. Oh, so many categories.
So
There's
let's
like,
do let's do a top five then, a top five. Because we love to do book recommendations and we love to talk about books on this podcast.
let me see. So, fiction books, I've really gotten into Leanne Moriarty lately. That's
Okay.
kind of a chick lit. She's Australian. Um, hmm. Let me see. I listen to so many podcasts now and listen to books. Um, Let me see. I'll turn around and look at my bookshelf. Uh, let me see. I don't know.
Talk to us now.
Yeah, one book that I like more than any other book.
So many.
It's hard.
It's
It
really
is
hard.
hard.
That's
I'll,
really, really
I'll think
hard.
I
I'll think
will
of
say one book that I'm reading right now. Well, the book that I'm reading right now reminds me a lot of your story. I'm reading the book The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday, and it's a book on the Stoic philosophy. And a
Okay.
big thing it talks about is accepting the truth being a little bit more objective rather than subjective. That our emotions are very subjective, but if we look at what is versus what isn't, we remain a little bit more objective with our mentality, and we're able to make changes because we notice what is, and we don't just constantly live in an emotional state, creating our reality rather than looking at what it is.
Mhm. Yeah, my son is really into the Stoic philosophers. He's been reading a lot about the Greeks, and yeah, he's enjoying that.
Yeah, and another book that I've been really devouring, but it's one of those ones that you don't read all the way through. Is this book on, here we go, the English alphabet, the English alphabet, like the power of numbers and words. This is by Marty Leeds.
Oh.
So, for example, it talks about the hand has five phalanges. I mean, 14. I think it's 14 or 13. Let me see. It's
Wow.
connecting.
3, 4,
So,
5,
like
6,
for
7,
exam14.
12,
Is it
14.
13? 14? Okay. And and then if we look at the alphabet, it's super strange, honestly. Like this book is one of those ones where you're just the whole time you're like, what am I reading? And then you just start going crazy in your head reading about it. So it just talks about the hand and it talks about the hand, talks about the alphabet, connects the alphabet to numbers.
Hmm.
So and finding a lot of meaning in the things that go on in your day-to-day life as it connects to numbers and symbols.
Hmm.
So I don't know how much scientific weight all this stuff holds,
I'm
but I
curious. Yeah.
can I can say it creates a lot of entertainment in your day to day because you
Uh-huh.
start to play around with the numbers and you start to kind of you see a word and you start coming up with the numbers in your head as it relates. So A and N on the same plane and they stand for number one. B and B would be two, C would be three, D would be
Hmm.
four. And then you're able to like look at a word and think about what numbers it means, and you start adding up the numbers, and it's just a
Let's
fun
do a quick
game.
let's do a quick assessment here. Give my name on the Zoom screen a quick assessment.
Okay, here we go. So Brett, B would be two, R would be, where's R? R would be five,
Hey,
E would be five. Okay, so we got double five. And then we go TT. So TT would be 7 7. Okay.
maybe
So
just the first name would be enough.
Yeah, yeah. If you look at your name, you got pairs in there, and then you got an odd number. I like it. To be honest, I don't know what that means, but if you look at it, you got three different numbers that add up to two pairs. So then you can multiply the three by the two, and you get six out of what that is, and then 666 applies to the
That's not
angel
good.
numbers. Yeah, yeah, I'm telling you,
That's not,
that's like what this book talks about. It talks about like making those connections and finding what you could find through
bro,
words
don't
and the
just
number that they
assign
represent.
me 666, bro. You
Yeah.
can't do that. You
Brett, are
can't
you evil?
you can't just assign me that, bro. That's like the Satan number. That's
Well,
crazy.
that's what it talks about in the book. That's what I'm saying. This book is crazy.
That can't be right, bro. We gotta call Dave. We gotta
Yeah,
call
You know
yeah.
Dave
what?
Call
because this
David,
cannot. We gotta make a phone
and we'll
call
go
after
with
this.
that.
Okay, back
Book
to
I
the
think your audience would love that I liked was Matt Fitzgerald, 80/20 running.
Eighty
And
twenty
okay.
running.
That
yeah,
sounds interesting.
so the purpose of this is you should do zone two running, like slow, easy running, 80% of the time. And the other 20% of the time you could do, speed intervals or, something like that. But, his point is to really benefit yourself from a cardio point of view. The greatest benefit is running slow.
Yeah, yeah. I know some people that would really like that.
Mhm.
That would be sounds very interesting. Okay. I want to go into this very interesting topic that we have prepared for today, and that is the doctor's 10 commandments to staying healthy. So you have put together 10 items, action
Yep.
items here for our listeners.
Okay. So my 10 commandments for staying healthy, and this is kind of aimed toward your generally young and healthy audience. And this is in no particular order. Number one, wear a helmet whenever you're doing any kind of riding an ATV or motorcycle or other dangerous motorized vehicles. I'm not endorsing ATVs or motorcycles. I think they're dangerous. I wouldn't ride them myself. But if you want to do something like that, wear a helmet.
Well,
And
let's
also,
go into that a little bit. How much safety is the helmet really providing? And in what cases? You know, I guess like high speed cases with like a very nice helmet, but what if we talk about like the Walmart helmet for riding a bicycle very slowly?
I would ride a helmet no matter what, and I would get the best
No
helmet.
matter what.
Yeah. Yeah, ATVs flip over all the time, and motorcyclists, what is it like? 50% of motorcyclists go to ground in the first year, and 90% go to ground in the first 5 years. We just see the most
Really?
horrible motorcycle accidents. And when they call motorcycles donor cycles, it's because, people are so horribly injured and die. And, a large percentage of
Yeah, I mean, it makes total sense. I mean, even at the low scale of like riding a skateboard or riding a bike in the neighborhood, right? Like as a
yeah,
kid,
yeah,
smack bare skull on concrete or have a helmet on, you
yeah.
know?
Even if you're a great cyclist, you can't control the cars.
Right.
Even when I go to my local park, you've got people pushing strollers in the bike lane, and then the bikes have to ride in the car lane, and it's all dangerous. So wear a
So
helmet.
Wear
I
a
have a
helmet,
quick
number one.
question.
Yep.
Are you in a relatively big city?
Um, I practice in Butler, which is north of Pittsburgh, so it's kind of a
Okay.
rural area. We get a lot of ATVs slipping over out where we are.
Butler is where the president was shot.
Yep,
Wow.
I wasn't there at the time.
You weren't there. And it didn't go to your doctor, did he? Or did he?
He was in my ER, but one of my
What?
colleagues took care of him.
Bro, what? This is like insane. So, okay, wait, can we talk about this? Like, I'm sure your coworkers have been talking about this, or at least when it happened.
Yeah, I'm probably not supposed to talk about this. This is It's under the doctor-patient confidentiality, even though I
Okay,
wasn't
gotcha.
like anything that I would have heard, wouldn't be official.
Oh my goodness. Dude, we're gonna have to do a secret podcast because this is insane. You got the inside scoop on the freaking conspiracy theories right here. I don't want to go.
No, I don't. No, I don't,
Yeah.
because I wasn't there.
All right, no, yeah. If
I was in the
anybody,
Minneapolis airport.
if any government agencies are now listening to the podcast, Mrs. Kate Rock does not have anything to do with
No
this.
comment.
All
So
right, number two,
one
number
thing
two.
Okay.
to switch from that.
No, we got the 10 commandments, bro.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying.
All right, yeah, number two.
Moving on to something that's way less interesting. Dentists. Take care of
Okay.
your teeth.
Yeah, we were about to break the internet right quick.
Yeah. Yeah, more conspiracy theories. We're going back to the brushing and flossing.
Yeah.
But
So
So
talk
that's
about that because
number
I've
two. I
read
know they're in
about
no order. They're in no order,
yeah,
but number two is brush your teeth.
yeah,
yeah.
because we see people, we're out in an under-resourced area and we see young people lose their teeth. So,
Mm.
yeah, brushing, flossing, visiting the dentist.
Besides like besides like keeping your teeth clean, what is it like? What are the benefits of removing all the extra food in between your teeth?
Yeah, I think you really want to decrease not only your tooth decay, but your periodontal disease
Hmm.
because, people who don't take care of their teeth, they have, bacteria growing that can actually damage the heart. You can get endocarditis. So,
Oof.
mhm,
Wow.
yeah, you
And
don't want to lose teeth when you're young.
yeah, I've heard some is this true? I've heard some stuff about it being bad for your brain to not take away to not floss your teeth.
Yeah, I mean, theoretically, bacteria can get into your bloodstream, and you could get. I mean, this would be very rare to have a brain abscess or, you know, systemic infection from periodontal disease,
Hmm.
but yeah.
Okay. And what would be number three? Number three
So
on the
number three is to take good care of your lungs by no smoking, no vaping, and I put in there also no nicotine because you really have to respect things that are addictive. Like nicotine is super addictive. So
list.
I don't know if they've proven that the nicotine gum and all these nicotine pouches and stuff that everybody's using now are bad for you, but they're super addictive and they probably are bad for you.
And
Yeah.
what has came out? So there nothing's came out on the pouches because I think the pouches at this point are much more popular.
I'm not really following this because, like, I would never do it myself. But yeah, I just smoking is so bad for you, and I think we don't really know how much of it is the nicotine, how much of it is the tar, how much of it is the other chemicals. There are so many chemicals in tobacco,
Yeah.
And
but
have you looked at nicotine by itself?
no.
Okay. Okay. Very interesting.
Can't prove it, but don't advise it. You have to
No.
respect things that are that addictive.
So
Yeah.
I will say the nicotine vape sticks are it's an
Can't be
epidemic.
good.
It's
That's
an
can't like
epidemic.
that just like yeah, it can't be good.
Yeah, people's use accelerates. Like they go from using a small amount to using a large amount pretty quickly.
Yeah, I mean the thing is like those vapes, like you see people hit them all the time, all times of the day, right when they wake up. The
Mhm.
barrier of lighting something up and having to leave where you are made it so that people
Mhm.
are ingesting who knows how much more.
Yeah, yeah, it's
Yeah,
true. If you were smoking, you could only have a cigarette break, a couple times a day, but you could vape all day at your desk or chew pouches or all day at your desk.
it's insane. I
Mhm.
remember being in high school and seeing all the kids going to the bathroom to do it. And I'm glad that I never gave in. I've never tried the vape pen,
Mhm.
but it's appalling to me how it's so many people just have it in their hand at all times, no matter what, and it seems like a stupid habit.
Mhm. Agree, and probably an expensive habit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where are we at? Four? That was yeah.
Yeah. Number 4 is an easy one, cardio for your heart.
Okay.
And even, it doesn't have to be painful, sweaty, hot, and difficult, you know, riding your bike, you know, fast walk, slow jog, you know,
And
elliptical.
do you think there's any validity to the needing to breathe through your nose or breathing through your mouth?
I listened to a podcast where they talked about that book about breathing. I think, people can breathe however they want.
Yeah. That's something our good friend Dave's been talking about recently is that the whole thing about breathing through the nose, it doesn't apply to people that are actually doing hard things.
Yeah, you just get the air however you can.
Yeah. All right, let's
Mhm.
get to number five.
Okay. Number 5 is Gardasil 9, the vaccine for HPV.
Mm,
You don't want to get cancer. And you especially don't want to get cancer of the body parts that the HPV vaccine will protect you from. I'll leave it at that. You really don't
Okay,
want
so
to.
Gardasil 9.
Yep. Yep.
I'm gonna check
What
if
is
I've
this?
got
And what is
that.
this again? One more time?
This is the vaccine against human papillomavirus, which everybody should have gotten when they were like 11. Just
Okay.
make sure you have it.
And you just have to do that one time in your life.
I think it's like a series of 2 or 3 shots, depending on how old you are. But yeah.
And what do you
Okay.
say to the people who would say that they would prefer not to get any type of uh uh shot? I guess I don't know. Yeah, there's people out there that say that.
Yeah. They prefer to get cancer. That's their choice.
I will say I have gotten all the vaccines that I needed to get, but the only vaccine that I was a little bit hesitant about, even though I got it, was the COVID one. What would you say? What would you say about the people that were super anti-vax and just refused to get it? I mainly got it so I could be around my grandma.
See, that's the thing. Yeah. If you're young and healthy, you getting a COVID vaccine is not the hill I'm going to die on. But if you're older, if you have, other health problems, if you're obese, if you have asthma, COVID vaccines can save your life. And same thing, if you are around people who are immunocompromised or older, you don't want to give them COVID. I've got COVID vaccines so I wouldn't infect my mom and my dad.
Yeah, makes sense.
And also, like, I didn't want to get sick with COVID. I'm training. I don't have time to be sick in bed for a week. I got to go to
I
work. I
will
got stuff
say,
to do. I'd rather get a
I,
COVID vaccine than get sick.
I will say for me, I got COVID twice during the pandemic
Mhm.
and didn't get sick at all. Like didn't have any symptoms, didn't even know I had it until I got tested.
Mhm.
And then when I got the COVID vaccine, I was sick for like 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
Yeah, it was bad.
Mm,
I got really sick.
yeah. Yeah.
But
You might have had something else
who
going on.
knows what it was?
Mhm.
You can never place anything on one singular variable because you truly don't never know.
Yeah. And there are so many viruses going around. You
Yeah,
could have had some
exactly.
virus at the same time.
Plus,
All
I'm
right.
not, so who we have no clue.
Okay.
We're on
Okay.
number
And
6, right?
number 6 is no abusing testosterone.
Oh,
No, yeah, no shooting up at the gym.
oh,
No steroids?
No androgenic steroids. There,
What?
there are ways to increase your testosterone naturally if you want to, but
I
yeah,
don't do
and
steroids, so I'm just kidding.
yeah, we always have to be careful when we talk about steroids because there are steroids like weightlifters abuse, and then there's steroids like kids with asthma use.
Yeah.
I
let's
ran
talk
into
about prednisone. So, like,
yeah.
I cycled prednisone almost my whole life. What do you say is the dangers on that?
I mean, that's like a legit medicine that, doctors use for kids with asthma and people with autoimmune diseases that they need to take. I had to take a boatload of steroids when I was on chemo so that I wouldn't have an allergic reaction to the chemo.
Hmm.
And there are a lot of side effects for prednisone, but yeah, you always have to make sure when people talk about steroids, you know which one you're talking about. Because
Yeah.
when, grandma's got arthritis in her neck and I suggest that she take some steroids and she looks at me like, what? It's usually because she doesn't understand which kind I'm talking about.
Yeah, explain like what the origin of steroids are because from my understanding it was meant to be a medical treatment for people that like were going through chemo. Am I correct on that or
Um, Corticosteroids like prednisone or dexamethasone or prednisolone um, are anti-inflammatory medicines, even stronger than like Motrin or Advil, and they're used in medicine for like a million different things.
okay.
Preventing and treating allergic reactions, asthma, things like Crohn's disease, just a million different things. Sore throats get better with steroids. Um, yeah, but they're very different than anabolic steroids like testosterone.
So
And
do
so
we
your
know
position, your
the
pos
yeah.
yeah, I was gonna say that your position for what was that, 7 or 6? But your position was for the anabolics or for the regular steroids, like avoid all of it or avoid one, or what was your position when you said
No abusing testosterone.
okay,
Okay.
okay, no abusing testosterone. So that would mean no anabolic steroids for
Right.
the purpose of getting
Right.
jacked.
Yep. Yeah.
Would you say there is any acceptable cases of using anabolic steroids?
Yes, there are men who have like hypogonadism and they can go to the urologist and get tested. And if their testosterone level is truly rock bottom, then they can take testosterone to get back into a normal range.
Okay. So I'm speaking mainly on the younger kids who use growth hormone.
Ah, totally different. Yeah. That's another big controversy. We could have a special session on that. Um, yeah, I mean, some kids have growth hormone deficiency, and so they need
Mhm.
growth hormone, but some parents want their kids to be taller, and then
Hey,
they want to use growth hormone to have just taller kids. So
Okay.
that's there's some dangers in that.
Yeah, okay.
that's
And
something to
so
look into right there.
And some ethical questions,
That's
should
very
everybody just be as
interesting.
tall as they want?
I
do you
mean,
think
but
it's
does that
more of
work
a
though? Does that
Yeah.
yeah.
really work with their, genetic I guess
It works. Right.
mixture?
That
Like,
definitely works.
Mhm.
It works.
but
Yep.
to a certain point, they're not going to grow any taller.
No,
Oh,
they
right.
grow
Yeah, you
very
gotta use it
tall.
when they're young. Yeah,
Yeah,
once
they
you're done
grow.
growing, it's over.
Right, but I mean during that phase, I guess I would have to study it more, but you know what I mean? I mean, if we have two short parents, two short stocky parents, like, and we're giving our child growth hormone, like, is he going to grow to his genetic potential or is he going to grow like, I don't know. It's very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, he can grow taller.
He
Yeah.
can definitely grow taller.
Mhm.
I want to look into this now.
Yeah, I know quite a few people that did it, and it's very interesting. Like the effects don't hit didn't hit while they were on it, it hit after.
And they're like just substantially larger than their parents.
Yeah.
Well, not even larger than their parents. It's just like a huge growth spurt out of nowhere.
Hmm. All right. Well, number
Yeah.
7.
Let's get to
Okay.
number 7.
Is sleep. Yeah. 8 hours of sleep, start early. I heard that the hours of sleep that you get before midnight count as double.
Oh,
And it's important to go to sleep at generally the same time and wake up at generally the same time. Like sleeping in on the weekends doesn't help you.
so I have a quick question about my circumstance. So recently I've been going to bed at around 4 or 5 a.m.
Oh
and
no.
waking up at around 12 p.m.
Oh boy.
Yeah, so I used to wake up. I was waking up at 4 a.m. every day, going to sleep at 7 p.m. But recently my job I focus a lot more at night, so
Mhm.
I've been going to bed at that time.
I think there are people who are truly nocturnal. I think that's like a diagnosable problem.
Well, I do have some levels of insomnia, but
Hmm.
I've never had a problem with falling asleep or doing the 8 hours of sleep.
Hmm. It's just a matter of, yeah, some people are non-circadian. Like, some people, they are just designed to be asleep when it's dark outside. And other people, like, it doesn't matter when they're asleep or awake. They can sleep any 8 hours of the day. So, I mean, what you have to be awake at night for your job or,
No, no, I'm very extreme and I concentrate when nobody's awake, so it's either extremely early in the morning or very late at night.
okay. I mean, I guess I listen to Huberman and he talks a
You're
lot about
cooked, bro.
being awake during daylight. But if you can't be awake during the daylight, if you have consistent sleep wake times, that's better than getting not enough sleep.
The first thing I do every day is get some light in my eyes.
Mhm.
I will say I'm good about that. I will say I'm good about that.
Yeah.
But it's just the it seems so wild to go to sleep at that time.
Yeah. And how do you feel? You feel like you get enough rest?
Yeah, yeah, I have no problem staying asleep, no problem going to sleep. Like at any given moment, I've had this great problem my whole life that anytime I lay down at any time of the day, no matter how much sleep I've gotten, I can fall asleep.
Mhm.
All
I
right.
think let's get to the next one.
Let's get to the next one.
Okay. So 8 is nutrition. All I can tell you for
Oh.
sure is eat enough protein, eat vegetables, and avoid sugary drinks and empty carbohydrates.
And how
Okay.
much protein is enough protein, and what are empty
Well,
carbohydrates for the people
there's
listening?
everybody fights. I've heard anything from 1 gram per kilo up to 2 grams per kilo, and it's hard. It's hard for me to eat enough protein, but I'd say eat as much as you can
Yeah.
within limits.
And then describe an empty carbohydrate for the people listening.
Oh yeah, this is like white bread, white pasta, any desserts, cake, candy, donuts. Um,
So you're saying Pop-Tarts are off limits.
Not off limits. I said limit. Yeah. Yeah, those are treats. Those are not like all the time.
So how many cookies are allowed in the week to week basis?
Uh, there are no hard and fast rules. I don't want to be dogmatic and like harsh and strict because that just leads people to getting all mental about their eating. But like just try to limit it, keep it to a minimum.
Do you have
Okay.
any Fresh Market or Whole Foods in the local area over there?
We have a Whole Foods, yeah.
Whole Foods. They
Mhm.
make some good cookies. I
The
can tell
Whole
Oh
you.
yeah,
Foods,
my
those
husband loves
those
their peanut
salted
butter cookies.
caramel. Oof.
Oh yeah.
Those salted caramel cookies are something.
Yeah. But they're just as bad as anybody else's cookies just because they're at Whole Foods.
Yeah.
I don't know.
They,
No, you're right.
they might have
A
whole
whole
salted
lot of
caramel.
carbohydrates, empty ones, as you would say. There's got to be something in those
Sugar.
carbs, though. There's got to be something in there. Some sort of, I don't know. They're not empty. They can't be. All right.
All right.
Number nine.
Is about alcohol. So I said the most recent recommendation I heard was 1 drink a day for women or less, and 2 or fewer drinks a day for men. And my daughter was telling me she heard it's supposed to be even less. So
That
yeah,
sounds already high. Two a day.
Yeah, that
well,
sounds insane.
yeah, like maximum. So definitely keep it under that. You
So
should.
is that very common for people? I don't know. I don't see a lot of people in the younger generation drinking. Like I feel like people older than me drink a
Oh no,
lot.
people are drinking a lot. People are,
Really? Well,
yeah, where I
I don't know.
am.
I don't like two drinks a day. Like when I'm talking about like a normal person who works like a regular job. They're going to work, coming home, going to
I,
sleep,
I'm seeing
drinking
people
two
that
drinks a
drink
day.
at lunch.
I
Here in
just
Miami, people drink at lunch and they get wasted at lunch.
My patients drink a lot.
Yeah.
really that's more what I was getting at there.
Yeah, it's in terms of like cases a day.
Phew.
Like how? That's crazy.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, personally, I haven't drank really since freshman year of college.
That's
Yeah, I've
admirable.
never been a drinker.
Yeah, and I
I
think the younger generation is going to be a lot better about alcohol. I see it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those things that there's really no gain to it. At
Mhm.
least in my experience, there's never been a gain from it.
Yeah, probably zero is the best amount for anybody to drink.
Yeah. All right. Let's see. What's number 10 now?
And the last one is protect your mental health.
Oh,
For people who have depression or anxiety, the best treatment for that is a good therapist and medicine that is not addictive, which means like
mm,
not Xanax, not Ativan, not benzodiazepines, but probably one of the SSRIs, like the Prozac, Paxil, Zoloft family.
okay. So would you say that therapy is important for anybody who even isn't going through something?
There's a whole field of positive psychology, which is, how much understanding yourself and understanding psychology can help you like lead a better life, even if you don't have a diagnosable psychiatric problem.
Hmm.
Yeah. And like, who doesn't have, stress and, you know, relationship problems and, questions about the meaning of life? Is it worth it? Is it, why am I here? What's the meaning? How can I live a better life?
Yeah. I
So
think
good
I think
therapist.
everybody has those questions.
Mhm. Yeah, when I was diagnosed with cancer, one of the first things I did was I got my cancer psychologist and I started taking Zoloft.
Hmm. So what exactly is what is Zoloft and what were the type of things that you were doing with your therapist that you could say you keep doing today?
Well, let me see. Zoloft is a serotonin-specific reuptake inhibitor, and one of the ideas behind depression is that people don't have enough serotonin in their brain. So the Zoloft makes the serotonin more available for your brain. And I didn't start off depressed or anxious, but I thought that it was probably coming with
Hmm.
all the changes in my life and all the unwanted medical intervention that I was going to have. So I thought it was better to kind of treat it early and before things got really bad. And my cancer therapist was a huge help. And one of the things he had me do was I had a binder, and in the binder, because I didn't want the chemo, I didn't want to go there and get that poison in my body. So one of my exercises was to write down all the reasons why I was getting the chemo. You know, because I want to, spend 24 or 25 more years living, with my husband that I love. And I want to see my kids get older and have their own children. And I want to, finish out my career in emergency medicine. And I want to, get back to my friends and my life and my running and, being able to travel and do whatever I want. So, I just kept reminding myself, why am I doing this?
Yeah, 100%. And were there any moments where you really had to like, 'cause I'm of the belief that you need to get rid of feelings. Like negative feelings are feelings as well, and they exist and they exist for a reason.
Mhm.
But were there any moments where you really had to work through those negative feelings, and if so, how did you do it?
I think it was mostly like sitting on those Zoom calls with my cancer psychologist and crying. I'd pretty much cry the whole hour.
Hmm.
Just,
But like you got it all out.
mhm. Yeah, because I didn't want to cry in front of my husband or my kids. And I tried to keep the crying during chemo to a minimum. So I mainly cried then.
Wow.
Can we get a quick recap on the ten action items real quick? Just speed run all 10.
Okay. So you wear a helmet to protect your brain, and you go see the dentist and take care of your teeth. You don't smoke or vape or use nicotine. You do your cardio because that's good for your heart. And you get Gardasil 9 so you don't get cancer. You don't abuse testosterone. You get 8 hours of sleep. You eat your protein and vegetables. You limit your sugary drinks and empty carbohydrates. You keep the alcohol to a minimum, and you protect your mental health.
That sounds like a winning checklist right there, dude. You wake up and check those off and you're good to go. Sound like
That
you're gonna
was
be
Dr. Rock's 10
on
Commandments.
track to be a healthy individual.
I hope that's helpful.
That's beautiful. I think we wrap it right there. I think it's been a great podcast. Those are 10 beautiful items, and it's been a beautiful podcast.
Thank you very
Yeah.
much. I really
Yeah,
enjoyed this.
thank you very
We
much as
appreciate you
well.
coming on, and this was an amazing story to share. We hope that anybody listening can take some advice from Kate here and learn something on their journey.
Peace.